Hey guys, I'm here with Mark LaBrooy, who is a restaurateur. You may know him from Three Blue Ducks, TV appearances, and a lot of hunting action on Instagram if you follow this great man. He is crazy enough to have just done 30 days on the Carnivore Diet, and we're going to talk about, first of all, why he chose to do that, and also talk through the symptoms, side effects, positives, good and bad. Let's get into it. So welcome, Mark.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me on, Simon.
Very welcome. Now, mate, first of all, what gave you the motivation to try 30 days of eating nothing but deer that you'd shot yourself and
So I had a heap of meat, obviously. Like I do a lot of spearfishing and diving. So I had lots of lobsters, lots of kingfish, and like I was like pretty surplused from the ocean, and then obviously from land-based hunting I had like plenty of wild goat, deer, and a mutton that I got off a farmer last year, so I was kind of like a whole mutton. Chest freezer full, like ready to go. And I was sort of looking at it and being like, if there was ever a time to do carnivore, like this is it, like look at how surplus I am. But I had a couple of external factors that were happening in my life that I found quite difficult. Like I was probably the most down I've been probably in my life, like for a very long time.
Right.
And I was like really feeling the effects of like having the shutdown and the restaurants closing and kind of like a lot of financial pressures and all that sort of stuff. And I started sort of thinking like, I've got all this stuff that's happening to me externally, and then I'm probably not making the best food choices. So I was like, why don't I just have like a little bit of a reset? And I kind of came to carnivore completely on my own. There was no like, Joe Rogan did it in my own life, like, and then like these are the things that I can control. And I was starting to get to a point where I was like a little bit unhappy with like how my body was. Like I've always been someone who's pretty in shape, and I wasn't in shape.
How old are you now?
I'm 40.
Okay.
So
there you go.
And like, pretty much had a six-pack till I was 30. Like I've been quite fortunate with like just my natural genes, I think. And then obviously like working in restaurants and being surrounded with all of that.
That'd be tough.
Yeah, like I'm a piglet. Like I love to eat. So my whole life is around food.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of like, that was my start point, I suppose. And then I posted on my Instagram that I was going to go carnivore, and a friend of mine who was a doctor, she's a cardiologist, she actually asked me if I could get my bloods done. And I did my bloods and sent them, and they were sent to her, and then she calls me up in a pretty serious tone of like, hey, we need to talk. And I'm like, fuck, what? And she was like, hey, you've got high cholesterol, and I'm going to be making a recommendation that you go onto statins, onto like a cholesterol medication. And I was like, whoa.
And this is before even starting?
This was 4 days in.
Okay.
So I had my bloods done like 4 or 5 days in, and I did a Bmi Scan at the same time.
Yep.
Bmi Scan came in at 24% fat, high level visceral fat, and my like body type was pre-obesity, and my biological age was 41. And every time I've done a body scan, I've always got a couple of years.
Yeah.
I've always got
couple in the bank.
Couple in the bank. I'm like, fucking yes, I'm 37. I was in a deficit. That never happened before. And that's when I think the penny really dropped, where I was like, hey, like I've got high levels of visceral fat, like my doctor is telling me that I need to go onto a medication to control my cholesterol, and I'm 40 years old. Like I'd hope to live to 80.
Yeah.
And like half of my life I'm going to be taking medication because I can't control my food choices and I can't exercise enough. So, and at the same time, another mate of mine, Sam McGree, he's a mad dog. He sent me a book. He sent me the book, The Comfort Crisis.
Yeah.
So I was reading that, and I was like, you know what? I'm just turning into the definition of this soft fucker. Like, what's going on here? so I started to engage in some pretty serious exercise program, and I've always enjoyed that and been pretty fit with exercise. It's not like, oh, that's a new world to me. And then the food, like going on to carnivore and the two together. But I think the significant thing with it was my visceral fat dropped considerably in 9 weeks. So I did a month of carnivore, and then I stayed keto for probably another 2 weeks after that, and then kept up my training, and I intermittent fast daily, and I gained 2 kilos of weight overall. I gained 3.5 kilos.
Like overall, you put on weight?
I put on weight.
Bloody hell. And you lost?
I put on weight and I gained 3.5 kilos of muscle mass. I dropped 4 or 5 kilos or something of fat mass. And like the guy at the gym was like, mate, I don't understand this. Like, you're putting on muscle mass and you're dropping fat at the same time.
This is the body scan guy.
This is the body scan guy. And he's like, that doesn't happen. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. So, yeah, and like in a short amount of time, like, and you can see it in yourself, like you start getting jacked, you start getting pretty ripped from it. And I found that I had a lot of energy, and my mental clarity was really good.
But it wasn't all roses, because you and I were chatting on the phone, sort of maybe weekly, as you were doing the 30-day challenge. There were some downtimes.
In the beginning I was like, this is shit. Like that time of low energy and sort of waiting for a bit of clarity to kick in. And it's not like you wake up one day and then you've got, like you see the world as Rain Man. It's like you sort of slowly realise that everything is easier and that you have more access to what's in your mind. So I quite enjoyed that. And I also noticed my temperament changed.
Yeah, I've noticed that with myself as well. Just much more calm throughout the day.
And shit doesn't piss me off as easy as it used to. Like, you get a bit irritated.
Particularly working in kitchens.
Yeah, like it's an environment with temper.
Yeah.
Although, well, I don't think that I'm like that, and we're not like that at the Ducks. They're pretty calm kitchens, but yeah. So I was pretty surprised, and then anyway, my doctor organised for me to get my bloods done again, and I'd taken my HDL cholesterol from 5.8 to 3.9 in 8 weeks, and I'd taken my...
Wait, so is higher better or lower better?
Lower's better, and then the LDL, maybe I've mixed that up, I can't remember. But one's bad, one's good. So my good cholesterol was at 1.2, and I took that to 1.88, and my bad cholesterol was at 5.8, and I took that to 3.9.
Right.
And my cardiologist was like, mate, this is about as good as it gets. He's like, that's the best I've seen of someone's like transition in this amount of time.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm not going on a medication. I've cut a deal with him to do another 6 months where I can keep going in this right direction. I'm very interested to see what I can manage, and like it's genetic. Like I'm part Sri Lankan and Dutch, so it's like I'm
cholesterol time bomb.
Exactly.
Yeah. So your cholesterol is getting better. You're getting better results even though you're eating more meat, more fat.
Yeah. Then like you'll see little things come up on your Facebook feed of like this is how we save the world. We don't eat meat, or we eat more vegetables, or eat more grains and
more processed foods.
Yeah, more processed foods, and it's like I'm not a doctor, and I can only really sort of speak about how I feel and what my experience has been. And I was thinking, like back in the day, you go to Hurricanes and you knock down a big full set of ribs.
It's at 16, there was nothing better.
You were shit for 24 hours, and you'd be like, oh, there's like, I'm blocked up.
Yeah.
But I found, the diarrhea in the beginning was a bit to deal with. I think it was the fat that you're dealing with. Yeah. Like your body doesn't have the right amount of bile to deal with that level of fat. And then I think I could feel when that sort of adjusted itself and everything became quite regular. and I was like, for what I'm eating, I thought that I would be excreting a heap more, but it's kind of like,
it's like a
rabbit, like I have like all this food that comes in and this tiny little guy comes out and I'm like, is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm oversimplifying it, but to me it just makes me think that you're using it all right.
Yeah, well, I didn't feel blocked up, like I felt clean and clear, like I had really good energy. Yeah, like it's just it's the commitment. I think, like, because my life is so governed by food.
Yeah.
I think like that restriction, you know, like of like that sensory overload that you get from your palate, and it's my craft. So to not utilize that, it started to make me think a lot differently about how I'm going to cook and how do I cook in more of a ketogenic fashion. Like I started thinking about this in a long term way, you know, and I've never dieted ever in my life. I've done a cleanse once before.
Yeah, right.
You know, so yeah, and now I'm fucking doing this again.
Here we go, another 30 days. Why not?
Yeah.
So I mean, now that you've experienced it, like you did go into deep ketosis, and you rode the highs and lows. How would a kind of like a normal diet, like not on a challenge, how do you want to eat now?
I think it's not as simple as like how do you want to eat. I think that like nature shows us so much about like diversity, and I think that we need to adapt the same ideals within how we live our lives. So I don't think it's about like what you eat. I think it's about the times that you eat. So I think that intermittent fasting is really important. Give you a chance, like
which you've been sticking to, right?
Yeah, religiously.
Yeah.
But like I might have in the last 6 weeks, I might have had 3 days where I'm like, you know, broke it early. So you know, I think it's like giving your body a rest from food, so it's not always having to digest something. I think it's the exercise that you put yourself through, and also the type of exercise. If like your idea of exercise is a gentle stroll in the park, I think that we've been given these bodies, and they you can make them into machines if you choose to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, what don't you always want to find out what your machine's capable of doing? And it's like, I think testing yourself.
Yeah.
And then
so more like that food for fuel kind of relationship?
Yeah, and I just think that when you train hard and you exercise well and regularly, it influences your food choices.
Yeah.
You know, you don't go like donuts.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like a rolling ball, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I didn't just, you know, do an epic ride or workout or hike or whatever to then go backwards at Macca's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination between like your times of eating, your exercise, and the types of food that you're eating. Like, you know, like I'm an ambassador for Property and Meats, and they are, you know, we're using only like regenerative farmer beef, and so the quality of the beef that I'm consuming is phenomenal. And you've got some similar principles with your business and running a lot of grass-fed product. And you know, like high quality breeds, and I think that's the key here. Like, you're not going to go. I don't think you're going to get good results by pounding like salami, bacon, and Devon. You know, like this isn't that. Yeah. That's not ketogenic.
And I don't think you're going to enjoy it as much as well, because you're not going to feel that kind of connection, that satisfaction knowing that you're eating something that's like really fueling your body as well as you can. I mean, definitely people have gotten good results eating like a real sort of budget carnivore style.
Yeah. So,
you know, eating like burger patties from McDonald's, doing whatever they can and trying to keep it nutrient dense. But yeah, I align with you. Like, you know, you go and eat like barbell air dried steak, which is organic and you know, regenerative, or the grass fed meat that we sell. You do feel so much better about it. I feel very satiated when I'm consuming that, and then obviously like all of the wild meat that I'm eating. Like every time I open up my freezer, like the freezer tells a story. Like I write down, you know, what everything is and, you know, where it was from and how it was shot. Yeah, that's cool.
And it's kind of like, oh, I remember that fallow deer, or I remember that sambar deer, or I remember that goat I bowed. You know, like, so there's a a reverence that just becomes attached to your food, and I don't think that we have that connection.
Yeah.
So I feel quite lucky with like being a hunter and gatherer, like in the capacity that I am, as well as having access to, like, just the access that I have is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh wow, like this has so much meaning to it.
I had some sambar deer recently.
Yes.
And it was nice. Yeah, I had a back strap, and then sliced it up, and it was really good.
Yeah.
And you feel amazing after that. You're like, this is a wild animal.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like
There's something different.
There's like this stored energy in there.
Yeah.
It's been eating the grass.
Well, mate, you hear Joe Rogan and Kevin Haynes and all that
about
stuff. Like, I'm on about the elk all the time.
Do you do bow hunting or just?
Yeah, I bow hunt and rifle hunt as well.
Yeah.
So, bow hunting I'm a bit new to. Like, I've only been doing that for a couple of years. So, I've only sort of taken down a couple of animals with that, like a couple of goats and some deer, and a few hares. But the rifle is a very effective tool. It's still difficult, but it's it's an effective killing tool.
Yeah. And if you've been hiking, for a day or two to try and find something, you finally find something, you're like, we got to get this.
We're doing it. We're doing this.
Put the ball away.
We're carting this guy out. So, there's a lot of satisfaction. There's a lot of satisfaction attached to that.
Yeah, nice. And sort of on the topic of hunting, there's more content and more action to come from you in that world, right?
Yeah, there is. I'm creating a series at the moment called Catch and Cook,
Awesome.
which will release as like a YouTube series. So a lot of fly fishing and line fishing and hunting and bow hunting, and we did the red deer roar this year before the lockdown happened.
Wow.
So that was
Where's that?
crazy.
Where do you
So the red deer roar is like in March. It's
Yeah.
a time when the red deer are mating, and it's the red deer are out and they want to fight and they want to fuck, and it's like, it's just crazy. The behaviour that you see is crazy. The interactions you have are just nuts, and you can call them in and you hide in positions. It's just like, we just had, we had 5 days at it, and it was just magic.
Is this in New South Wales or?
Yeah, this is in New South Wales. So this was in the Riverina district.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So that was pretty unreal.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then we've got some trips coming up. We've got a big trip to the Northern Territory in Jan with Nick Joyce, who's a professional photographer and hellman from up there. So I think that'll be good fun. Like I feel very lucky that I can go and have these adventures, and it's like food's what's brought me there. Like that's the reason why I started hunting in the first place.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. Well, Mark, thanks so much for chatting with us. 30 days, hardcore carnivore, somehow lowered your cholesterol.
It's so funny because it's like, when I speak to my doctor, he's like, now, how are you eating? Are you adopting more of the Mediterranean style diet? And I'm like, I'm on the phone to him while I'm cooking, and I'm like, another massive knob of butter in there. It's like, and like my wife Hannah was, I'd sit down and have like 6 or 7 lamb chops and like some grilled mushrooms or whatever, with grilled cheese grated over the top of it. And Hannah would be like, and you're on a diet. She'd look at her plate and look at my plate and be like, and you're on a diet.
That's not what we've been told, is it? And you're improving your cholesterol, losing weight, putting on muscle, and you're tucking into a big plate of lamb chops. I mean, what could be better?
Yeah, and I've like my body's changed. Like I've never held this much strength. I don't think. Like we've been rucking a lot. Like we hike with me and a buddy. We hike with a backpack with 30 kilos of sand in it, and we hike up Sabine Point every morning.
Nice.
And do a couple of push-ups while we're up there. And it's like, we're both of us, we're like, fuck, what's going on here? Like, it's pretty good.
Was he into the meat as well?
He's into the meat, not as heavily as I am. And I asked him if he'd do the carnivore with me, and he was like, no, I can't commit to it.
Yeah.
So there is a big commitment.
Yeah, it's definitely a commitment. Yeah. You have to. There has to be something that kind of really drives you to make a change.
Yeah.
Like what you were talking about before about, feeling a little bit down, lockdown, whatever, all the pressures that come with that, being a dad, turning 40, all that sort of stuff. It's like, hey, let's make a change.
Yeah. What I'm really interested about with this round is that I'm in a pretty good physical condition at the moment.
Yeah.
What happens when you do carnivore when you're in good condition, when you're not behind the 8 ball?
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, like obviously the gains will be less, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Like it won't be as significant.
Well, are you going to train as hard as you did in the previous one?
I'm going to train harder.
Harder, right.
So I've started training harder already.
Yeah.
Where it's like 1,000 calorie burn sessions. That's what I'm trying to go for.
Yeah, wow.
So.
Well, you're not going to have. I mean, the sort of down moments. They're going to be less.
I hope so.
Yeah. The diarrhea will be less severe, and that kind of like keto flu or like
the keto flu thing of like, I was hiking with my mate who wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
And he just had so much more explosive power than me. And I don't know, maybe I'm talking out my ass here, but like it's like that stored carbohydrate energy.
Yeah.
Where you could just like, you could access it and drive it. And I found it in myself, like my explosive power was lacking. And that's so much of my training is like strength training.
I think that explosive stuff comes later as your body really adapts. Like if we had an ergo here and it was like, let's do a 2K time trial, we'd both go and have like a honey sandwich and be like, let's get all fired up, maybe a Red Bull too, and let's go to a dark place and then just worry about whatever happens later.
Yeah. But I wonder, it's funny, like that mentality of like this morning I was on the trainer and I was like, okay, fuck, it started raining, I was going to ride outside with mate and like ride the hills around Ostomy. And it started raining and my mate pulled out and I was like, it is a bit sketchy and wet on the road. I'll just jump on the trainer. But I had 40 minutes, And I was like, okay, I'm going to push 260 watts.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to push it, And at 20 minutes, I was like, I can't do this. I can't make it, And then when you take your mind into that space of like, just do it. Like, just make yourself do it. And like, and then like sweat's pouring off you. You turn into an animal.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing like human about you anymore. You're disgusting. You're a brute, And it's just like, dig deep and you're swearing at yourself and like, then you do it. And, you're like, fuck, I actually did that. And I didn't think that I could.
Well, I reckon the discipline from doing something like carnivore, and fasting as well, that translates to how hard you can push yourself.
Yeah. There are some little tricks though, I found, with cooling down your hunger.
Okay.
The apple cider vinegar is a good one.
Yeah, I do that every morning.
Yeah. And then black coffee. And water, like I'm feeling a bit hungry, I'll just drink like half a litre of water.
It definitely helps. Often you're dehydrated when you actually think you're hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, let's wrap up there. Thanks, Mark.